Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. In today's video, I wanted to talk about another Washington Bigfoot sighting. This one happened back in 2011, the month of August, and the person who had the encounter was a hunter, and he was out scouting and looking for areas that are good for mule deer and elk, but he was also hoping to shoot a bear on this trip too. So he went out into an area where there was a clearing and a watering hole, an area where there should be lots of wildlife, and he ends up having a very early morning sighting of Sasquatch, like a pretty clear sighting where the creature, is facing him about 110 yards away, and it just eventually turns around and disappears like a ghost. So it's not a very scary encounter, but it's one where the person who experienced it was able to observe the creature for a fair amount of time, and knew for a fact what he was looking at. There was no mistaking it. This is a guy who is experienced in wildlife identification. This guy's a bear hunter. He knows what bears look like. And he sees something that he knows in his mind is Bigfoot. So we'll go over this experience right now. Early one morning, while scouting for mule deer and elk, I had also been hoping to fill my bear tag at the same time, as bear season was open. This area is not well known for black bear activity, but they are present. I was tipped off by a neighboring camper a few nights earlier of a watering hole in a clearing a few hundred yards from camp, and assured I would see plenty of elk and mules. I was looking forward to snapping some pics with my new camera, as well as having a shot at a black bear. I woke up well before the sun, gathered all my camera gear, rifle, pistol, and a chair, and headed out. Just inside the clearing, there is a grove of trees providing perfect cover for an 80-yard shot at the watering hole. Just beyond the watering hole, about 30 yards further, is the other side of the opening where the forest begins in a massive game trail, like Grand Central Station for other critters. I hunkered down and was immediately attacked by mosquitoes. I couldn't let the constant skeeter slapping blow my cover, so I cut 2 holes in my stocking cap, pulled it over my eyes, and zipped my coat up over my neck. This helped, and I did not move a muscle for the next 30 minutes. Facing east, I was staring straight at the game trail entrance as the sun had just started coming up beyond the trees. Then out of nowhere, just to the left of where I was patiently watching, it moved into view. According to Google Earth, it was 110 yards away, and all it did was stand there, full frontal and facing me. I'm looking at Bigfoot. I am looking at Bigfoot. I must have repeated that 1,000 times in my head. As I mentioned earlier, the sun was just coming up and it glimmered off its fur perfectly in the dark woods. I could see its full outline from the elbows up as it was standing behind a fallen tree that was still hanging onto its roots a few feet off the ground. There was enough light that I could barely make out the shadow of its jawline and chin, well below its shoulder line, and its hair was beaming with light from behind. I could not tell what color it was for sure, with such a contrast of color between dark woods and brilliant sunlight beaming off it, but I will forever remember the outline of its body and long hair. So many things ran through my head during the approximately 45-second encounter. With a camera on my left and 2 firearms on my right, I could not gamble making a move for my camera, and I have no reason to shoot a squatch. There was no threat, and through all the racing thoughts I came to the conclusion that this may be the last encounter I ever have. I soaked in every second. Though I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt what I was looking at, I waited to see if it was just a reflection of trees and shadows moving with the rising sun. But as soon as this thought had come to mind, the creature moved like a ghost behind a large tree and out of view. I waited a couple hours longer, and 2 mule deer bucks came running from the north and stopped at the watering hole between me and the edge of the trees where I had seen the squatch. Still eager to get a photo of the deer, I stood up to get their attention and snapped a few pics of them both looking at me. I got a few nice pictures before they took off towards the area I saw the Sasquatch. Just before they reached the tree line, they stopped dead in their tracks, sniffed the air, looked at me, stomped their feet, sniffed the air again, and looked back in my direction before cautiously entering the woods and out of sight. At this time, I grabbed just my pistol and camera and proceeded across the opening to the area of the sighting to gauge the height of the fallen tree from which I saw the Sasquatch. I'm 5'10", and when I stood behind the fallen tree, the top of it came to my shoulders. This is the height at which I saw the Sasquatch from its elbows up. With my camera in hand and my pistol holstered, I did not feel any threat. But I didn't really want to stick around much longer either. I searched briefly for footprints, but there was so much grass, weeds, and pine needles I just assumed it was better to head back to camp and reflect. I'm looking forward to another opportunity to observe. So that's a pretty awesome encounter. The one thing, I have to say right off the bat, is it's a real shame this guy didn't get a picture of what he was looking at. Because, he says in the story he's got a brand new camera, he wants to test it out. And that would have been probably a pretty clear photo of Bigfoot. If he took the risk of reaching for the camera and, trying to get a picture. But, he just wanted to take in the experience. At least that's his excuse. And, I can't say how I would react in that situation. If I would just be totally frozen, maybe I would completely forget to even go for my camera. I'd be so caught up in the moment that it wouldn't even be a thought. So it's hard to say how any of us would react in that situation because it's such a bizarre, strange thing to experience. We don't know what we would do or how we would react. Another thing is that maybe this is a really great way to encounter a Bigfoot, is to find a really remote area with a watering source and kind of an open area where you can see, you have good visibility because there's no trees blocking your view, but there's a watering hole and, it's a place where there's game trails and lots of animals are coming in to access that watering hole. And maybe this Bigfoot creature was there to, have access to that watering hole as well, but maybe he was out about to hunt a deer or do something of that nature. He came up to the tree line and maybe he was going to go for a deer as well. Maybe he was doing the same thing that this hunter was doing and he noticed something was off. Maybe he actually saw the hunter or maybe he sensed the hunter and he decided, no, this isn't a good idea. I need to get back into the woods and disappear. So who knows? That's kind of what it seems like to me when I read this encounter. But, you can't really say for sure. Let me know what you guys think of this encounter down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, guys. We'll see you next time on Mountain Beast Mysteries.